First, the technology has increased, so you have an increase in what's called gestational surrogacy, where the woman who's carrying the baby is not biologically related. So where either the intended parents are biologically related, where they, like in my case, where I use my own egg and my husband's sperm, or in a surrogate, or you have gay couples where they use an egg donor. But really the rise is due to the medical technology and the increase in acceptance of same-sex couples having families.
I see. Well, same-sex couples, I can understand it because, especially with the men, because it's a little hard to carry a baby if you don't have a uterus. I heard that.
Yeah.
But like you have 3 like that. Why did you do it?
Well, my uterus doesn't function properly, so I couldn't carry a baby.
Oh, I see.
But everything else in my body worked fine. So I was able to use a surrogate to carry the baby. But there are lots of reasons. Recovering survivors from estrogen-positive breast cancer, it's not safe for them to carry a baby, but they can use their own eggs. If you have severe diabetes, it's not safe for you to carry a baby. Heart transplant, kidney transplant. If your mother took DES while you were pregnant, which was a drug prescribed in the 60s and 70s, your uterus is T-shaped, and a lot of times you're not able to carry the baby yourself.
So there are medical issues. So it's not, but there's never vanity involved?
Every once in a while, you get somebody who calls up and requests to use a gestational surrogate or a traditional surrogate for vanity, but it's very rare that they go through it because they don't realize what's involved. Until we get a surrogate pregnant, it's a process.
Yeah, I would have done it, but I still try to lose the baby weight I gained in 1970. It would have been fabulous. Michelle, I would think that there are ramifications to surrogacy. I mean, big time. You know, taking the baby away from the mother, for example, there's certain kinds of scents, I understand, that a child has the same aroma, that wants the mother's smell. What about stuff like that?
Well, we all know some amazing new neurological research that is clearly telling us that before birth, that baby is tuned into that mom. Empathy, they can also hear that mommy's voice. So let's go one step more with this. It's very similar to adoption. And when we look at what the research is saying, long-term research on kids who are adopted, they turn out just fine, thank you. It's all a matter of the strength of the relationship between that parent and that child.
But what about the physiological relationship? What about that? I mean, is there a period of time that the child should stay with the person who is actually carrying it, or he or she, rather?
No, I think what most of the research is going to support is that attachment of that early attachment immediately at birth, whether it be certainly going on to the new caregiver who's going to assume that parent role is absolutely essential. So better to make that switch early so that baby can bond with that mom.
Well, that's good news, I guess, you know, because if you're going to do it. Let me ask Deidre about her surrogacy. You were the first celebrity to go public in 1992 in People magazine. Deidre, why did you choose surrogacy?
I had tried hi, Joy, nice to see you again.
Yeah.
I had tried for many years to conceive, and it just wasn't a possibility for me. And I'd done a lot of research. I'd written a screenplay, in fact, about surrogacy, and I loved the relationship between the biological mom and the gestational mom, or the adoptive mom. I believe in women helping women. I loved all that and wanted to be part of that process. So that was why I chose surrogacy.
I see. But where did you go? I mean, are there agencies like the William Morris office? Can you go? Can you find an agent? Or
I'm not sure William Morris still does that. But no, I went to an agency.
They only produce short babies.
13-week options. Okay. I went to an agency, and it was very, very carefully screened. I mean, we had drug testing, the parents, the surrogate mom, Robin and I, psychological testing, and we were matched because we wanted the same things from the pregnancy and from the life of the child. I wanted complete contact with her before the birth, after the birth. We're still dear close friends. She sees my children all the time. She's at every birthday party they have. Her sons, right now, one son, Robbie, is in Afghanistan. And my sons and I have spent enormous amounts of time gathering gifts for him, sending them off, making sure that we're very, very close.
That's nice. I mean, but what happens, Melissa, when the surrogate mother develops an attachment to the baby and doesn't want to give? Remember Mary Beth Whitehead?
Absolutely.
That whole story?
Well, I have an agency also, and we have about 125 pregnant surrogates, but we don't do the same kind of surrogacy that has been done in the past. So, like in Deidre Hall's situation, she has a surrogate that is from a traditional surrogate, meaning the woman is biologically related to the baby.
Right.
So when we separate the egg in the womb from a legal perspective, we're in states where she can't keep the baby, where we have a legal order in at the time of birth that baby is then transferred to the parents. But I have to tell you, traditional or gestational, they don't want to keep the baby. That's not the reason that they're in it. They're in it to help.
It could happen.
It could happen that they could want to keep the baby, but in a gestational surrogacy situation,
they can't.
They won't be able to if the legal aspects, like my law office takes care of all the legal aspects, and if the legal aspects are taken care of properly, they won't be able to keep the baby. And we have never had a paid surrogate actually in the over 1,000 babies we've had ever try to keep the baby.
Really? Okay, Michelle.
In our case, you know, what I want to say, Joy, was in our case, Robin was very, very clear that this child was created for us and not for her. So she wasn't carrying a child that she had conceived out of love in her own relationship. This was a child that was created for us.
I understand
so it made
that.
The
I
separation
still think
much
that
more.
it could be rough sometimes, but I guess you're saying it's not. Well, that's nice.
And
to
they're screened very well. So they have a lot, in our office, they have 3 months of screening before they can even become pregnant. And they meet with psychologists, and if they've ever
How much does it cost?
It really depends. Like if you use a sister or a friend, the costs are very variable. But let's just say you use a paid carrier through our office, it's about $60,000 to $80,000 for everything.
That's all? I thought it was more than that.
Well, if you go into multiple cyclers and egg donors, you can get up there, but the average is $60,000 to $80,000.
Do you think that it should be covered by medical insurance?
In certain states it is. For instance, I lobbied for legislation that was passed in New Jersey as an insurance regulation, and under the insurance statute in New Jersey, if you have a medical need and work for a New Jersey-based company, all 4 of your IVFs are covered, and your surrogate's pregnancy goes on your plan.
So that could work in some states. Michelle, Elton is keeping the identity of the mum, as we said. Do you think the child should know who the surrogate mother is?
Well, what most research is saying is that you need to sit down and have that little talk early with the child at their developmental level that just simply says at this point, I'm the daddy, and in this case, Elton would say, here's the other daddy. You then wait a little longer, usually 18, 19, 20, until you give that child the option. Because the biggest problem I'm concerned about is the confidence of the parent to be able to confidently parent on your own with not always having to feel like the other, you know, the biological mom is there still around. It's a rare mom, I think, who can handle that relationship still with the other mother.
You know, Deirdre, what's his name? Elton. There he is. Elton John. He wanted,
what's his name? Elton, yeah.
He wanted his musical genes to be passed down. That doesn't always work. I mean, let's take an example. George Herbert Walker Bush, George W. Bush. Obviously, it doesn't always work. So, but do you think that, did you do anything like that? Did you want your babies to be, you know, beautiful and talented like you are? Did you think of that?
You're very kind to say that. And they happen to be beautiful and talented, having nothing to do with my gene pool. But I think there's a fairness to that. Mostly, I wanted a baby in my arms. And I wanted a relationship with the biological mom. And that's what we have and still have, that my children and I have always adored.
You know, Elton is...
I love that, Joy. I love that. I just got to say, that's the bottom line. The motive is I want the baby in my arms, not to pass on the gene pool. Because how do you know on that one? It's nurture plus nature, and it's Russian roulette when it comes to the genes.
Well, in Elton's case, he figured he's got the sperm, he's got the musical talent. Why not put them together? Boom, you have a talented baby. I mean, he's, you know, killed 2 birds with one sperm. Yeah. Thanks, ladies. Thank you very much. This was interesting conversation. I hope the women out there are listening. You have an option. It's nice. Up next, has political correctness gone too far? We'll find the out in the next segment.